Welcome to Morphic Labs, and today we are going to be continuing our discussion of Beyond Sharp, what quants actually care about. But before we get into that, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with more content like this. I will greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested in increasing your market intelligence, which if you're into trading and markets at any capacity, you should be interested in increasing your market intelligence. But if you are interested, I have a free market microstructure and trading systems course that will walk you through the foundations of market structure, the mechanics of trading, market data, and analytics. Plus, I have a free advanced market aggregation course that will walk you through advanced price-based aggregation, volatility-driven aggregation, information theoretic aggregation, order flow microstructure aggregation, event-driven and hybrid methods, plus implementation and selection criteria. If you're interested, the links are in the description. You just gotta sign up to be a free member, and you have all these resources all to yourself for free. Now, let's get into it. And we are at chapter 3, correlation in the covariance matrix. A single asset's expected return and volatility matter far less than how that asset behaves alongside every other position in the book. Quants construct multi-strategy portfolios not by optimizing individual positions, but by analyzing the covariance structure of returns across the entire opportunity set. The mathematics of diversification is the mathematics of correlation. Definition 3.1 Pearson correlation coefficient. Let x and y be random variables representing the returns of two assets with means mu sub x and mu sub y. The Pearson correlation coefficient P sub xy is defined as P sub xy equals the covariance of x and y over sigma sub x and sigma sub y, which equals the expected value of x difference mu sub x times y difference mu sub y over the square root of the expected value of x difference mu sub x squared times the square root of the expected value of y difference mu sub y squared, where p sub xy is an element of the closed interval -1 and 1. Now, regarding the Pearson correlation coefficient, is not really the most, I want to say, let me just say it's not the most reliable correlation function you could use. There's far more advanced methods you could use, and I have a resource for that. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Which is advanced correlation for markets, which covers dynamical systems, random matrix theory, topological data analysis, and the death of static Pearson. I'm not gonna get into that today. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get into it at any time, but if you're interested in it, just let me know on Discord or just sign up and hit me up, and we'll talk about how you can get your hands on this. But as I was saying, the Pearson correlation coefficient is just call it a level 1 correlation function, right? And the ones that are in here are more of like level 1 to 10, right? Very sophisticated stuff that's in this advanced correlation for markets resource. But as I was saying, for a portfolio of n assets, the correlation structure is encoded in the symmetric n by n correlation matrix R, which is defined as R equals this matrix over here, where P sub I and J equals P sub J and I, and P sub I and I equals 1 for all I and J. The covariance matrix sigma relates to the correlation matrix through the diagonal matrix of standard deviations D, which equal the diag of sigma sub 1, sigma sub 2 over to sigma sub n, where sigma equals D times R times D. For a portfolio with weight vectors defined as W sub 1, W sub 2 up until W sub n, and you take their transpose, the portfolio variance is sigma sub p squared equals the transpose of W times sigma times W equals the sum of W sub I times W sub j times sigma sub j times p sub I and j, where I and j index from 1 up until n. This double summation reveals the critical insight. Portfolio risk depends not on individual asset volatilities alone, but on the pairwise covariances weighted by their position sizes. Two assets with correlation P equals 1 contribute additively to the portfolio variance. Two assets with P equals -1 can eliminate each other's risk entirely at appropriate weights. 3.1 Portfolio construction via mean variance optimization. Modern portfolio theory, or MPT, formulated by Harry Markowitz in 1952, solves for the optimal weights W star that maximize risk-adjusted return subjects to constraints. The primal optimization problem is defined as minimize 1 over 2 times the transpose of W times sigma times W, where we're optimizing for W, subject to the transpose of W times mu equals mu sub target, and the transpose of 1 times W equals 1, right? The Lagrangian is defined as L of W and lambda and gamma equals 1 over 2 times the transpose of W times sigma times W difference lambda times the transpose of W times mu difference mu subtarget difference gamma times 1 the transpose of 1 times W difference 1. First order conditions yield the optimal weights, which is W star equals the inverse of sigma times lambda times mu plus gamma times 1. The sort of all solutions as mu subtarget varies traces the efficient frontier in risk return space. Definition 3.2 Diversification ratio. The diversification ratio DR measures the degree of risk reduction achieved through diversification. DR equals the sum of W sub I times sigma sub I, where I indexes from 1 up until n, over sigma sub P equals the sum of W sub I times sigma sub I, where I indexes from 1 up until n, or up until n, over the square root of the transpose of W times sigma times W, which is greater than or equal than 1. A higher DR indicates greater diversification benefit. DR equals 1 implies perfect correlation among all assets, no diversification. And if you know anything about when markets are in turmoil, you would know that correlations do tend to 1, right? And this is why it's so important to use more advanced correlations outside of just the Pearson or just any, call it level 1 correlation function, right? Which is any type of correlation function that gets taught to a economics class or a business class. Any of those are, I hate to say it, but useless. At least in some instances they're useless. Sometimes they're useful, and that's why I'm talking about it. But Table 1 says correlation regimes and portfolio implications. We have 3 columns. We have correlation regime, we have the range, and we have the portfolio implication. Strong negative essentially has a P less than or equal to negative 0.5. And the portfolio implication is natural hedge, scale capital aggressively. And a negative correlation regime where negative 0.5 is less than P and P is less than 0 implies that the portfolio implication is significant diversification benefit. An uncorrelated correlation regime where P is approximate to 0 has a portfolio implication that states that risk scales with the square root of n, not n. And a correlation regime that's positive with a range of 0 less than P and P less than 0.5 has a portfolio implication that states limited diversification, monitor for regime shifts. Highly correlated where P is greater than or equal than 0.5 has a portfolio implication of risk compounds reduce aggregate exposure. Assets or strategy with correlation P less than 0 relative to the existing positions allow a quant to scale total capital without mathematically multiplying absolute risk. I'm going to read that again. Assets or strategies with correlation P less than or equal to 0 relative to existing positions allow a quant to scale total capital without mathematically multiplying absolute risk. Essentially, having little to no correlation amongst your positions is the most optimal portfolio construction, right? At least given what we've been talking about. During crisis periods, previously low correlations often converge toward P tends to 1, a phenomenon known as correlation breakdown. Robust portfolio construction accounts for this regime dependency through stress covariance matrices or regime switching models, right? And that's about it for today. Regarding the regime switching models, I have an advanced correlation for markets resource. If you're interested in it, just hit me up on Discord and we can discuss how you can get your hands on this. And that's about it for today's Beyond Quant. On the next video, I'll be talking about maximum drawdown and risk of ruin, discussing the karma ratio and risk of ruin. And that's about it. If you're interested in increasing your market intelligence, I have a free market microstructure and trading systems course that will walk you through the foundations of market structure, the mechanics of trading, market data, and analytics. Plus, I have a free advanced market aggregation course that will walk you through advanced price-based aggregation, volatility-driven aggregation, information theoretic aggregation, order flow microstructure aggregation, event-driven hybrid methods aggregation, plus implementation and selection criteria. If you're interested, the links are in the description. Just gotta sign up to be a free member and have both of them all to yourself. And that's about it for today. I'm out. Bye.